Let me just run you through the program. Why are we talking about Plug Mtaani, Vijana to Invest, and why the youth? Waziri has just mentioned that our youth population right now, we're talking about around 25 million of our national population as being composed of the young people. And I'm sure these numbers keep rising. Out of the 25 million, 61% plus of these young people are either underemployed or unemployed completely. When we say underemployed, we're saying they are in some form of business or hustle that can be structured and put together into a proper enterprise that can not only rise, but also can create other jobs. The current statistics we have in terms of literacy level is 81%. If we have a population of young people who have a literacy level of 81%, we can skill these young people. We can shift their minds from job seeking to job creation, and especially entrepreneurship. And if that can happen, then whose responsibility is it? We believe that it's our responsibility. It's time, it cannot be tomorrow, for us to change the minds of these young people. So the Plug Mtaani, Vijana to Invest concept is not just another business idea competition, is a mind transformation agenda, is an attitude change agenda. We also want to acknowledge the effort of the government. The government has also introduced some interventions like Hustler Fund. Then we're also talking about, then the Youth Enterprise Fund. We also have the Women Fund. We have the Wezo Fund. Then we also have the Kenya Youth Employment and Opportunities Project. So these are some of the interventions that the government has brought into place to empower the young people. But is it enough? Is there space for us to innovate around youth empowerment? Just next slide. So we also identified the gaps. For us to be here today, we want to talk about what gaps then exist if there is some intervention from the government and other private sector players, because we also want to acknowledge quite a number of private sector partners that have expressed interest in partnering with us, and they are in here. We'll acknowledge them as we continue. What are the gaps? Number one gap is funding gap. Funding gap, I think this cannot be overemphasized, because the funding gap we have is, and there is, yes, funding, but is there intensive follow-up after that funding? Do we seek to know how the young people invested that money? We are not having the first competition in this country. We are not also having the first grant or the first empowerment in terms of funding this country. But the challenge is we only bring these young people back to the screens and YouTube and social media to talk about the failure, not to talk about their success. So you give a young person money today, they will not invest that money in business, and the next thing you hear is this one won $1 million, but they squandered the money. We don't want to have that repeat of a story. We want to introduce an intensive follow-up, monitoring and evaluation, and not just giving money, but empowering the young people, and ensuring we know where they are and what they are doing with that money. And that's why partnership here is key. The other gap we also identified is continuous monitoring and evaluation. Can we quantify the interventions that have happened in this country and beyond? Can we quantify the grants? Can we quantify the intervention? The other gap is the current status of default rate. I think this is not news. The data that we have is 60% of government funds that have been given to the young people are not being paid. So when you have a fund that is put into the population, but 60% is not plowed back, and it's supposed to be a revolving fund, then we kill that fund automatically. The other gap we identified for us to come up with this intervention is capacity building. So we have said young people are given money, yes. They get the loans, yes. But do we capacity build these young people? Capacity building is not just training them and telling ourselves that we can go and just train the young people and think they know it. It's not enough. We need to package capacity building, both training, mentorship, coaching, apprenticeship, and all that can go into capacity building, so that by the time a young person is getting to their 5th year of entrepreneurship, we are not talking about failure at 5. we are talking about success at 5 years of age. So what is our intervention? What is our intervention? The first level that we identified was in terms of ideation. If you say today we have a competition that is going to award money, what will happen is a young person will run to their uncle or their auntie and ask them, auntie, can you give me an idea that I can pitch so I can win this money? So the discussion just narrows down to winning the money and not getting a feasible and a sustainable, innovative business idea. So we want to bring an intervention at the point of innovation, at the point of ideation. And the program we are going to mention here takes care of that. How do you come up with a business idea? What are the bare minimum checks that you can qualify a business idea with? The second thing is packaging that idea into a business plan. An idea is not an idea if it's not put into a business plan. The reason today young people cannot qualify for a bank loan is because they have an idea, they are running the hustle, but it is not packaged into a business plan. And the International Labour Organization program, through the Start and Improve Your Business program, brings that intervention very well, where the young people just not be trained on how to innovate, but to package the idea into a business plan. Then after this, we now talk about financial linkage. Because if you train the young people, and again, you don't connect them to financial support, you leave them desperate, you leave them frustrated. They have the knowledge, they have the idea, but they have nowhere to go because they have no money to start. So financial linkages, and this is where Plug Mtaani, just before you go take me to investment, this is where Plug Mtaani comes in with the partners. We want to work with the financial institutions. We want to work with the government funding institutions so that by the end of the training and capacity building, we can take these young people to financial linkages, whether that linkage is a grant, whether that linkage is a loan, or that linkage is an award through winning the competition. And finally, we want to transform the minds of the young people in this country, not just to spend, but to save and invest. And Can Invest have a masterclass of a saving and investment? So let's look at how the program will run. We have segmented this program into two components. The first component will be capacity building component, which is key because we are trying to close the gaps that we have identified up there. So we will have capacity building and then we will have awarding. But also we want to go down to the grassroots. We don't want to have another national, nicely painted event, give a few people money and say we did it. No. We want to have impact even to the farthest place in Wajir. That this program was not for Nairobi, it was not for Nakuru, it was not for Mombasa. It had impact even in Kilifi County, in Lamu County, and everywhere in this country. And that's why we are partnering with all the counties so that it is not an impact in Nairobi, it's an impact across 47 counties. So let me just break it down and how it will run. The first thing is we plan to capacity build 200 young people per county. If we capacity build 200 young people per county through training them on how to innovate and how to put their innovation into a business plan, then we can bring these young people to a competition. 5 days will be the training and then we'll bring them into a competition. At the county level, we want to start awarding there. The other gap we want to close is the winner take it all mentality. It's not just in politics, it's also in awarding. Many competition will award number 1, number 2, number 3, and then the rest just go home having been in a competition. We want to kill that. And so we want to bring a case where at least any competitor who tried takes home something. That way you can say there was impact, not just to a few, but to the majority. When we talk about job creation in this country and creating decent jobs, we have to be intentional about how we go about it. Then the county business competition. We want to award at least 9 categories at the county level. And this discussion will further it in the afternoon and see how it works. We want to acknowledge disruptive ideas, level category 1, 2, and 3. That is the number 1, first runners-up, and second runners-up. But we also want to acknowledge that different counties represented here have different sectors that drive their economies. If you go to Homa Bay today, the sectors that drive the Homa Bay County is not the same sectors, or are not the same sectors that drive Embu County. They're different. And so we also want to acknowledge innovation along the value chain in terms of sectors that are involved into different counties. We will recognize 5 sector ideas at the county level. But there's one category of people that we also want to acknowledge: people living with disability, and award them and give them a token they can start a hustle with. After the county level, we come to the national level. We'll pick 3 winners at the county level, bring them to the national level, and we are calling it a boot camp. So the national boot camp will bring 3 from each county. Sorry, that is not 3, it's 9. And these 3 will be 141 that will come to the national boot camp. And a 5-day boot camp will be run again by ILO, bringing in other people that can talk to the young people to change their mindset, to change their way of doing things. And by the next 5 days, we'll be able to transform the way they do things, the way they think, and the way they present their ideas. Because soft skills can also be taught, and we want to bring that component here. After the 5 days, we'll shortlist these young people from 141, and we'll pick 47 of them. After picking 47 of them, then we'll run a TV program for 12 episodes. Why do we need a TV program that will bring out this innovation? For 2 reasons. One, we want the counties to have their representatives at the boot camp at the national level, also feeling that we have our own at that level. So we want someone from Kilifi County, someone from Wajir, Mandela, and all these other counties being representative at the national competition. The show will also bring in voting, because we want to involve and involve and involve. And through that voting, we can see impact out of it. And finally, we will have the awarding, we'll have a live show at the semi-finals and the finals, and then we'll have the presidential awarding, which is the climax of the ceremony.